Okay. And I'm Alice Jones. I'm the lead minister of the Burke branch of Rays of Healing Church. And it is my absolute pleasure to introduce Kat, and I think it's Riegel, right?
Yes.
Riegel. And which is an absolutely fitting name for you because every cat I know in the world is Riegel. So, and they just really are. I'm having a fun time with my son and daughter-in-law and grandson's cat because he hid from them when they were trying to leave here in Thanksgiving, and they searched for him for 2 hours. And he came out 10 minutes exactly after they left. So I know he wanted to stay. Billy, wanted to stay and
Billy.
everything. And so if there's an opportunity to, for you to find any reason that I can give my husband to let us keep him, because even my daughter-in-law, whose cat it is, said that she feels that he belongs to us, as I do. And so anything you could tell me to convince him will be much appreciated.
Okay.
And everything. And Kat is truly I have talked to maybe 4 to 5 animal communicators. She is the best I have ever talked to, and I just feel so privileged to have you on board again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be invited back. So, awesome. Wasn't sure if you wanted me to go ahead and start or if.
Totally.
Okay. I have to ask that when you said Billy, female cat, like a striped tabby?
Black.
Black, all black?
All black.
Okay, because I was getting dark colors with it. Well, there's a couple things I could tell you with Billy, first of all. One is the hiding and not wanting to come out until after people had left is definitely the sign of saying like they wanted to stay with you. Most cats don't like car travel, but there's, in addition to not wanting to get in the car and travel, your energy, the house, everything feels really good. And the cat was just like, went through the other family to be able to get to you. So wanted to stay. For telling your husband things here, one, Billy is like, he goes, I picked you guys. Why would you get rid of me? I picked you. That's the best thing. It's a gift of me. And then also cats help lower your blood pressure. They make your lives live longer. They're calming. There's just all kinds of things, all really good health benefits to having a cat in the house. So you don't have mice problems. It's like, not that I don't think you have mice problems, so I don't think that'll be an issue, but definitely he's going to be there. And sorry, I keep looking off to the side. I have 3 kittens that I have in the room right now who have to be separated from the rest of the household because they've got little infections going on right now. So they're being really good, but if somebody bounces into the screen, I do have cats in the room, which I don't normally do. So, well, again, thank you very much for inviting me back. And this evening, there's a few things in talking with animals. Some of the things that I can tell you that come up is anytime you're talking with animals, whether it's you're just trying to have the best connection you can with your own animal, or if you're interested in trying to have connections with other animals, a lot of people ask, can they talk to other animals? Can they talk to wildlife? And wildlife is definitely something people can talk to. Like if you hike or like to be outdoors, perhaps you go out in your bird watcher, you might go out and sometimes you can see different birds. It can be nice to be able to say hello to the birds, let them know that you appreciate being outdoors, sharing their space with them and talking to them. So anytime anybody wants to talk to animals, you don't necessarily have to have the connection like I do. If you do, it's great. It makes it a little easier to hear them. But you can always give messages to animals. And I always tell people, talk to them like you would talk to somebody else. Just be like, hi, Billy, how's it going today? Just kind of talk to them, give them information. You can ask them questions. And a lot of times they'll give you those answers back. Sometimes it's in a look. Sometimes it's how they react to you. If you're looking at birds, again, back to the bird watching and you're outdoors, you're saying like, oh, hello, hawk. It's really nice to see you out here. It looks like it's a beautiful tree that you're sitting in. Do you have any messages for me? I asked a hawk that one time when I was sitting outside. We have a back patio area, and I was eating my lunch. I had this stone table where my lunch was on the table, and there was this beautiful red-tailed hawk up above me in the tree. And when I asked, "Do you have any messages for me?" the bird let go and pooped right in the middle of the table. And it was kind of like, I looked at it and I looked down because my first thought was like my lunch, like I wasn't going to eat it if it had landed. The poop went in such a way it didn't touch any of my food. It went completely around it. So I still had the food. And what the bird's message to me was let go of things you don't need anymore. And I was like, okay, great message. Messy, but a good message, and able to let go of things. So sometimes, you just know that just talking with the animals, you can get information, you can ask them, and just greeting them. So many times the animals love that you're willing to include them in your life and in what you're doing. So it's really nice to be able to just include the animals in what you're doing. Some of the questions that I was asked for tonight, maybe, or I was trying to prepare, kind of give some information here, is I get asked a lot of times, how do animals ask for help if they're not feeling good? So sometimes you can look at your animal and you're kind of like, they don't really seem quite right. They're maybe not eating what they like to eat. They're picking at it. Maybe they are not playing like they used to. So like the favorite toy, the favorite ball is just laying there in the middle of the living room, and you roll it towards the animal and the animal just is like, whatever. They do that sigh. If you've ever watched your animals and they're really not interested in something, or they're not feeling good, they're kind of like, and they look away from you. They might put their head on their paws. So you can tell when your animal's not feeling good. A lot of times people will call me up at that point and they're like, okay, something's not right. I'm not sure what's up. Do we need to go to the vet? How do we make this feel better? What do they need? And so that's where I'll come in and I'll reach out, talk to the animal, find out, first of all, how are they feeling physically? Are there aches or pains, physical issues that have come up that we need to address or have their person talk about, ask the vet about? And like for me, when I'm working with animals that way, there's a couple things that I do. One is I can invite the animal to let the feelings be put on me so I can kind of feel it. I'm empathic to start with, so I can pick up feelings a lot from just other animals and people. But when I'm asking the animal to do that, it's more specific than just a general feel. It's more like, oh, all of a sudden my knee will start to hurt. And I'll be like, okay, is your animal, have they been limping? Is that back leg, the back right leg, for example, look like it's been a little tender, or are they whimpering if you touch it? And usually there's like a yes answer. So then we can say, okay, you might want to have that looked at, and then take it from there. Some other times people will call me up and say, like, an animal who is peeing in the house, for example, that's one of the big complaints sometimes. A lot of times an animal will do that because they're not happy about something, or more often there's actually a physical problem, like they're having some sort of a kidney issue, they're having a bladder infection or kidney infection. Animals don't always know that they can just come to you and try to tell you, hey, there's a problem. Or maybe they think they did that and they're not getting a response, they're not getting what they need from you. So then they have to act out what we consider inappropriate to be able to get that attention. When I'm asking an animal who's been peeing in the house what's been happening there, usually I ask to feel what their bladder feels like, what their kidneys feel like. If you've ever had like a kidney infection, or you've just had a time when you did not drink enough water and you're sort of dehydrated and you try to go to the bathroom and you're like, ooh, that kind of hurts, or you get a sensation, you know what it feels like. That kind of will come through with an animal. If they have a bladder infection, for example, when I ask to see the animal and I kind of look at them, it's almost like I can sort of x-ray into their body and I can see it. The bladder will show up and it'll look really cloudy to me if there's an infection going on. And then I can ask the person to take their animal to the vet to be able to get them medication for it. If the animal tells me they're having an infection or something like that, They get to the vet does the urine test and then comes back and says, nope, there's no infection here. There's nothing. Sometimes I've had people come back to me and they're like, okay, they were tested. They don't have an infection. The vet doesn't seem to think there's wrong. We think it's a behavioral issue. Then we can go back and we can ask the animal again, like, okay, the vet says you're good. There's no infection here. Sometimes I've had it happen where it's been very, very early stages of an infection, or it's been stages of for a dog that I worked with was having um, crystals starting to form in the urine, but the crystals were so small and had passed when the vet had tested the urine that they didn't find crystals. And so when we had gone back and talked to the dog about a month later, hi cutie, there were still some problems. And when they took it back to the vet and tested again, then they found the crystals. So it's not always behavioral, but sometimes the issues will come up. The animals are a little bit more in tune with themselves and they can tell there's a problem happening before it actually happens. So it's kind of a waiting to see, sometimes being vigilant, being the voice, coming back, working with the animal, going back to the vet. And sometimes an animal will tell me, usually not in the case of a urinary tract infection, because that can be cleared up pretty easily. But if an animal is having cancer issues, for example, there was one time I talked to a woman who had a dog, and she said the dog was having problems where it looked like it was having a hard time walking. It seemed to have a real tender spot on the back when they were petting it, but they really couldn't find any lumps or bumps. They weren't sure what was happening. When I asked to talk to the dog, I did kind of my x-ray on the dog, felt through it. And what I kept seeing was what looked like one of those giant white Stay Puft marshmallows right in the spine. So it was like in the spine. And if you've ever looked at x-rays, usually something that's dark or a mass will show up as a lighter color. If it's an empty space in the body, then it shows up as a darker color. So it's opposite what you see. And when my friend took her dog into the vet and said, they really weren't sure what was happening, they finally got the vet to do x-rays. And she said that when she looked at the x-ray, it looked like there was a white Stay Puft marshmallow shoved into the dog's spine. It turns out the dog had a herniated disc. And so they were able to do surgery and help the dog get through that by doing the surgery and then taking out that ruined disc. I've had people ask sometimes, does the animal want to go through a treatment? Again, that wasn't a cancer, but I've talked to some animals who end up coming down with cancer. Nobody wants it, nobody in people, nobody in animals. Depending on the age of the animal, sometimes the animals will be like, yeah, I know I've got this, and I feel like I'm pretty young. I feel like I have a lot going on still. I'd really like to have it taken care of. So if the person, again, a lot of treatments can be expensive. So it kind of depends too sometimes on where the person is financially. Can they afford to take care of the treatments? And if yes, then we can ask the animal, do you want to have, usually it's the vet in that case has said there would be surgery to remove a tumor. Sometimes there's chemo or radiation, which are becoming more and more frequent now for animals. And we can ask the animal, do you want to go through these procedures? I've had animals tell me both yes and no. I've had some who are like, yes, I want to go through it. And I've had some who've been like, no, I know this isn't going to make me live very long, but I don't want to go through that. I think the surgery is going to be hard. I don't want to do the recovery. So asking your animal sometimes can help. If the animal kind of wants the surgery, but the person's like, I don't know how to make it happen financially, then we can kind of talk to the animal and say, okay, your person can't quite do this, but these are some other options. If the vet was able to give other options, and we can ask the animal then, could you do other treatments if we can't do surgery, but are you willing to progress with medication, for example? And so sometimes animals will say yes and can buy in, but this way we have both the animal and the person talking to each other to figure out what it is that they need or they want to do with each other to make this happen, to make it work. Let's see. So special treatments like that, though, again, it kind of depends. Some animals want them, some don't. If we're talking about cases where it's not as severe as a cancer situation, I've got clients who have horses, for example, and I have to tell you that cats and dogs are very well loved and are often cared for very well. People that have horses tend to do a little bit more. So it's kind of interesting sometimes to see what horse people will do for their animals. And I've worked with, there's a stable here in town where I asked, or they asked me to come out, and I'll go out every so often, and they have people signed up waiting for me. I sit at a picnic table and the people kind of file by and I read their horses and off they go again. But there's quite a few people who will work with their horses, who do massage on the horses, Reiki treatments for horses, chiropractic care, and cold laser therapy treatments. So the treatment options that are actually available now are far more interesting, I think, than they have been in a while. So there's a lot of new opportunities for vets and people to be able to work with their animals. With the horses, most of them love to have that kind of energy work. I don't think I've ever had a horse tell me, no, please tell them don't do any more massage. I don't like it. Most of them are like, oh, please, I want some more, send them on in. I didn't get enough, an hour wasn't good enough. I need a 2-hour massage. Reiki energy is really good for the animals too. A lot of times they will figure out what they want, how to get it. And Reiki is kind of nice because if any of you do Reiki or send energy that way, you can send it from a distance. You don't have to be right there. And animals pick it up really fast. So they get their energy, they get that information very quickly and will soak it up. Sometimes the animals are like, okay, it's enough. We have enough. I've had cats who like energy work like that, but they don't like it directed right at them. So if you're working on a person in a room, the cat might come in because they can pick up and sense the energy in the room. But if you direct it right towards the cat's like, oh, that's too much, and will walk out of the room again. So sometimes just filling a room with the energy is enough. Or with a horse in the barn, in a stall, and you can feel the energy there. And then anybody who needs it can walk through, get that benefit, walk back out again and go on with what they need to do. Let's see. Sorry, I lost my thought there. So it's sometimes asking the animals about treatments. Like there was a dog that I worked with where the dog was really having some stiffness issues, and they weren't really sure what was happening, but the dog was just getting stiff. It was an adult dog. I won't call it an old dog because I feel like it still had like at least a good 5 years going on before anything was going to happen, anything more dramatic, where the animal would decide to change being physical into an energy form. With that particular dog, because it was so stiff, it was needing exercise, but the dog really didn't want to go for walks. The dog kept saying that walking on the pavement, the pads of its feet didn't feel good. It felt like they were scraped up every time they went walking. So the person went out and tried to buy little boots, shoes for the dog. The dog was like not having it, did not want to have the shoes on its feet. Some dogs love them, some don't. So you kind of have to test it out. You don't always know until you actually put the boots on the dog until if they're going to actually like it and try it. And we found that there was a physical therapy center here in town for animals where they did water therapy and basically took a great big bathtub or wash tub, if you will, filled it up with water, and there was a treadmill in it, and the dog would get into the treadmill or on the treadmill into this pool and was able to walk. But it's a lot like us doing water aerobics. The water is buoyant, it helps support you, it's easier on the joints. So the dog was able to exercise in the water using the treadmill, being supported by the water, and then started to get more movement and was able to be more flexible, and then it started enjoying walks again once the joints started loosening up and the mobility was there. So sometimes, like if you have a swimming pool, most swimming pools are a little deep for an animal. So you might try, tubs, big wash tubs. I don't know if you have treadmills that you could put into them, but just knowing that you have therapies like that, sometimes the animals really love it. Now, if your animal's afraid of the water, it might take a little bit of time to get the animal to jump in and actually get used to using the water, doing the therapy treatment, but you do have that option if you can get them into the water. So it, kind of varies a little bit there. And it feels like I've kind of gone over a few topics here, but I just wanted to, so are there any questions that anybody wanted to ask about any of those, or anything that comes to mind that you wanted to know more about? Okay, no's okay too.
Hi, can I just jump in with a question?
Yes.
What if there's something that needs to be done for the animal and there's a lot of resistance? I'm thinking specifically in my case of claw clipping on my cat. One of them nips at me, and I just try to go slowly, do one or two at a time, a lot of petting, a treat, but still it's like, I don't want that done. Is there communicate that we really need to do that? What would you do? Let me just put it that way. How would you handle that?
This question actually comes up a lot with cat owners. And it's like trimming the nails does a few things, because you keep from getting scratched. It helps keep the tear down on furniture, things like that too. I don't have any cat ever who's told me like, oh, spa time, do my nails. Not one. Okay, not one. Most of them think that the claws are supposed to be there. They feel like they can take care of it on their own using scratching posts, or however they want to do it. Now, whether they actually use scratching posts, again, is another story. The best thing I can tell you there is what you're doing, going slow, giving the treats, reassuring the cat, like petting it, just being calm with the cat is really the best thing you can do. And getting one or two at a time is probably the best that's going to happen, just because the cats don't like it. They just feel like it's part of their defense mechanism and they don't want to lose it. Most people who can trim the cat's nails are really good. You don't usually nick or things like that, but I know the cat has always got that little fear of like, what if? And I think sometimes that's in the back of the person's mind, which can work against you while you're trying to trim nails. Because if you're thinking like, oh, I don't want the cat to squirm, I don't want to nick the cat, I don't want to cut too deep, the cat is hearing you going like, what do you mean cut too deep? What do you mean you're going to make me bleed? And so that doesn't really go towards the like, okay, here's my foot, just trim the nails. I'll stay still. Good. It's done. Now I can go off and play, so having those thoughts about like, you won't get a claw snag if your nails are shorter. I can hold you on my lap more if your nails are shorter. Positive outcomes, nothing that has that fear-based, or none of the what ifs, if you will. And so it's like, oh, if we go through this real quick, here's an extra treat. You're going to get a tuna flavored treat, and then you can go play. I'll leave you alone for a week, that kind of thing. So trying to put that positive spin on it helps a lot.
Which reminds me, I know you're not supposed to convey not, like you just used one that I don't know how to turn into a positive. You won't get your claws snagged if I do this. How would you communicate that?
Okay. I would be like, how, like, just kind of example, it's like, okay, I'm going to call the cat Sweetie Pie just because I need a name for a cat. So I'm like, oh, Sweetie Pie, you know how you like to be on the couch, but you know how sometimes you try to jump and your foot gets caught and then you hang off the couch? If we trim your nails, you'll be able to jump off the couch gracefully and easily and look so pretty. We'll show off how acrobatic you are. So you can kind of do that. So it's like, what does it look like when the cat jumps off the couch without a claw snag? It's graceful, acrobatic, easy. There's nothing caught, nothing snagged. Sometimes that works, but it can be tricky. I know as people, we try to go into planning mode and what do we need if something happens? So we're always kind of thinking that way, and our animals are like, why do we go negative? Why do we have to think that way? Everything's going to be great. We have a good thing. We want everything to work.
Mhm. Okay, thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome.
Kim.
Hi, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
No. Kim, unmute yourself. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I thought I unmuted. Sorry.
Yeah.
My Bob and I had visited with Alicia and her Bob over the holidays for dinner. And the cat she was talking about, the black cat, was nowhere to be found. And I think it took about at least an hour and a half for the cat to finally come out. We brought our dog, a senior miniature schnauzer who was very calm and relaxed and who kind of trotted along. You know, I saw Kaylee kind of trot through the living room and I knew immediately, oh, the cat must be here because she took off. But everything was fine and positive. But then out of the blue, the cat jumped up on the dining room table and went straight to my Bob. And I said, when that happened, I said, that's always happens. There's something about him with his energy. The animals go to him. When we're on hikes, we see deer and fox and I think I'm answering my own question, but I think they're just some people who the animals know. They have like an aura. They're gentle people, and that they're comfortable. They feel safe in revealing themselves. So, I just have a question on your thoughts about that.
No, I would tell you very much so. There are definitely people who have the ability where animals are just gravitate towards them. I had a friend, Suki, who we all called her dog handy because it didn't matter where she went, if there was a dog there, and as soon as she got in sight of that dog, the dog would go crazy, would race over to her and just like want to pile up on her, jump on her, lick her, pet her, be petted. And we were like, okay, this happens every time. There was once, she came into the house we were, and there were like 3 people who had brought dogs, and the person that lived there already had 2. So there were 5 dogs in the living room. They'd all been pretty calm. I mean, they had done that usual kind of jump up and greet each other. But when Suki walked in the room, it was pandemonium. Those 5 dogs just like piled on her. She had to finally give up, sit on the floor, give all the dogs love before anybody could do anything else. So very much there is that feeling. Animals do sense like our thoughts, our patterns. They know when we have a calmness about us. Sometimes there's also like we have a running dialogue as people that we just sort of have in our heads at all times. If there's a lot of chatter in your head, if you're very busy in your mind and you kind of like, oh, I'm always thinking about 2 things, 3 things, I can multitask. Sometimes the animals are a little bit put off by that because you're not really like in the moment. You're not able to focus on them. You can't give them attention. So somebody who can be very much in the moment is going to be able to draw in those animals and have a little bit better connection. And the animals are like, oh, this person's quiet. This person's calm. They're here now. So if I go over and give attention, I can get attention as well. So it probably your Bob husband is probably got that where he's able to just sort of be in the moment. And the other thing too is he may not actively reach out and seek the animal. So it's really hard because sometimes I think we walk into a room or we see a dog or a cat and our first instinct is like, oh, dog, a cat, I want to go pet it. I want to go say it, touch it, say hi. And the animal is like, who are you? Why do you want to touch me? So immediately we're looking at them, we're focused on them, but we're reaching for them. We're trying to get to them. Sometimes the animals want a second or two to be able to read our thoughts, our feelings, our energy, and find out like, yeah, okay, you're okay. You can come touch me. I think I mentioned this on the last call, but it kind of comes up with cats, especially if you look directly at cats, a lot of times that's how they're visual creatures. They see stared at as being you're a predator and you're hunting them because you're staring at the prey. So if you don't look directly at a cat, sometimes the cat's kind of like, oh, okay, this person's really cool. I can go over, I can go walk up to this cat or I can let them touch me. But if we stare at them, sometimes it makes them nervous. Dogs don't seem to have quite the same you're staring at me, you're a predator feel, but it can make some of them uncomfortable. So sometimes looking at them, greeting them like, oh, hi, I see you. But then looking away is actually a better thing to do because it gives that animal a little bit of a break and a chance to sort of read you and your aura and then decide, are they going to come up and come over? But the outside walking around, when you said like if you go hiking and you see a lot of the wildlife outside, that is a really, to me, an honor thing, because I feel that we have so much opportunity to see and observe nature and wildlife in nature, and there's a lot to learn from them. And we just have to be willing to share the space. And I think like the animals are willing to share. It's already their home. We're already out in their environment. And so they're already sharing, but we don't always look at it that way. We're like, oh, okay, we're out here, we want to take over, if you will. And not everybody, I say it as a generalization, but people try to take over anytime they go out and they do things. And for people that don't have that kind of attitude, they're like, wow, look at this. Oh, I love being out in this space, or it's such a beautiful day, or I'm so glad I came out here. When you can see the animals in the wild, then it's so nice, because you can greet them and be like, it's honoring for you to see them and for them to be seen, because most of them don't give us that opportunity. They're willing to, but we don't always get it. So very cool. Thank you.
Guess, Kat, nobody else has a question. I don't see any. Well, let me just check the chat box.
Okay.
There's two hands up. There's one lady, Allie put her hand up first, and then I put my hand up. So
Okay, Allie. That's right. I'm still not used to that. All right, so Allie, we'll go with you next.
Thank you so much. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to be here. And Kat, thank you for addressing our group today. And I have a question regarding my dog. Now, she's a 23-pound, she looks like a miniature lab. However, she's a Chihuahua mix. And you actually touched on one of the questions that I actually had for you, because I was going to mention it kind of breaks my heart sometimes, although I've practiced non-attachment. So I'm really well practiced in not making meaning of it. I think I know, because I've done some animal communication. Just wanted to tap into your sensitivity to share perhaps what may be going on. She's kind of avoidant. She wants to avoid me, especially when we're at my mom's house. My dad is deceased now. And so when I'm at my mom's with her, I feel like it's kind of good cop, bad cop. Whenever I'm coming for her, I'm putting on treatments, or I'm grooming her, or it's bath time, I need to do something, put her coat on, take her coat off. It's always me handling her. Whereas with my mom, she's grandma with the treats and the food, and 2 for me, 1 for you, 1 for me, 2 for you. And she's gaining weight when she's here at my mom's house. When she's at my house, she's lean and trim and well adjusted. However, I'm just looking at the contrast, of when she's at grandma's, it's kind of like, who are you and why are you coming for me? And she'll tuck her tail. And if she sees me coming in her direction, or she'll come into a room, and if she sees I'm there, she's like, never mind. And I'm like, why are you leaving? What's going on? It doesn't hurt my feelings. I'm just perplexed by it.
No, that makes sense. And I'm sorry, tell me the dog's name again, please.
Her name is Deja, like deja vu.
Deja. Okay. A couple things that are kind of coming there is one, I tend to use people pronouns with things like this. If you think about, like, if you had a 2-year-old toddler, you're the mom, you have to make sure that the child has everything. You're changing diapers, he has to eat the right food, things like that. Grandma gets a little bit more leeway. So what you're seeing there, it's kind of like, oh, it's fun time when I get to go see grandma, because she's going to do all the fun things with me. But all those necessary things, the things that make a happy, healthy, long life, are things that you're trying to do. The grooming, bathing, things like that. So what I would tell you here is 2 things. First is that when she's with your mom, you had mentioned that your dad was deceased. What Deja's telling me is that she's sensing your mom has loneliness. There's an issue there where your mom may not be displaying it or sharing it, because as the mom to you, she's trying to be a strong figure. She wants to not show that she might need some support. So when Deja's there, she's able to get that support, that unconditional love, that Deja can just be like, you don't need anything except a companion. Here I am, take my love. And so there's that ease into it. When you're coming in, I think Deja's feeling a little bit conflicted. She doesn't feel like you need her, the same way. Like she gets love from both of you. And what I'm picking up is that she understands and she feels the love from both of you, but she has more of a desire to be needed. And your mom has that where you don't. You're stronger, I guess I would say at this point. And so having you come in and do these things, I think she's actually a little bit afraid that you'll take her away and not let her come back and just give that love to your mom. What I would suggest here is just reassuring her that she can be shared between the houses, that it's like you want her to be able to spend time with both of you, but that you have to make sure that Deja is as supported as possible and as healthy and as strong physically, mentally, spiritually, so that she can go to your mom's house and help give that love to your mom and help your mom feel better, more comfortable, things like that. So it's kind of she sees her job as wanting to be the companion, and we can ask her to expand that job a little bit more to be able to allow you working with her so that she gets all that she needs to be able to support your mom. She says, sorry. She says a little bit that it's like when she's more with you, that there's like more expectation, like she has to be on her best behavior in a way. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. It's how she's describing it. But I think the difference there is more like, it's a school day. So, you have to get up, you have to put on your clothes, you have to eat your breakfast, you have to get out and get on that bus and go to school and do your homework. On a weekend, you can wear whatever you want, sleep in, if you don't eat great, okay, no big deal. And so it's kind of the difference. You're the school day, mom is the weekend day. Both are important, both are needed, both provide something for both sides, but she's just kind of like wanting to play a little bit more.
Okay, that sounds good. And I hadn't even considered that, because what I was also getting from her is she's feeling like gawked. Like whenever she comes in, my eyes are on her and I'm tracking her movement. And she's like, can I just be? Can you stop like looking at me? She's feeling like that. And that's what she's communicated to me. So as you mentioned with the last inquirer, I don't remember her name, I didn't see it, but when you were talking about cats, or maybe you were just speaking in general, I feel that, and she's a smaller dog. She's even though she's 24 pounds, she's petite, and she's a long dog. And so the thing is, to be significantly larger than she, I feel that it's almost like, what did I do? Can I just like fly under the radar and be like, and float around the house and be here and be there without feeling like every time I come in, eyes are on me, tracking my every movement.
Right. And I see that as like, I understand what you're saying, and it's a great description. But she's kind of like, you do that, and then she feels like, okay, like you're watching her, like you're waiting in case something doesn't happen right, like it's not quite. And she's like looking for a little bit more freedom. So I would say, give yourself maybe some permission, or if you're structured enough to say, okay, I need 5 minutes of your time to just like look you over and see, is there anything that we need to do? And then 5 minutes of playtime, or like you can go be in the living room, do whatever you want to on your own, and then try not to look at her for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, like, okay, fine, I get the inspection, and oh yeah, I get to go play. So it'll kind of free that up a little bit. But
Thank you. That's
yeah, so I know it's hard sometimes, because it's like you're looking out for her best interest, and you like have to look at her to be able to see that. And she's just like, I'm afraid to do anything. So
yeah, right.
So letting her do that, or
Yeah.
just trying to find if she does something that's like cute or funny or something like that, kind of celebrating that with her and be like, oh, that was really cute, that was so good, I really love to see you when you're having fun. So you can also kind of encourage her to have fun by telling her, when you see that she is kind of acting out and playing, that's really nice to be able to see, as well as like, oh, it looks like we need to give you a bath, type of a thing. So there's both sides.
Right. Or take you to the vet. Yeah, because that's what the I'm going in, and then it's probing and then looking, and then now I'm on the phone, and she's like, what now? And I'm like, are you want to go to the vet? Not really, you know? And so, right. And I've been trying that where I'm not looking directly at her, and it's been going over like gangbusters. And I'll also play music with high vibrational music, and
Good.
I'll dance, and her little spirit soars. She loves that. And I make sure not to really make direct eye contact. I glance at her, not fully frontal looking.
Right.
I'll look at her from the side, and I'm smiling, and she loves that, and she's just smiling away. So I just wanted to share that.
No, I think that's awesome, because that gives creativity, and
Mhm.
like she shows an image of you, like you light up, you have a glow that comes out about you when you're doing the dancing and the singing. So it's like you're being creative and you're enjoying that. And so it's like that's something she's like feeling the joy. So those are the kinds of moments that are just awesome for that. Something else,
Thank you, Kat.
sorry, one more thing. When you're going to the vet, if you do that, you could be sometimes it helps to be like, okay, we have to go to the vet. They're going to look at you, but you're coming home again is always a good thing to tell the pet. You're coming home again. And then when you get back, here's the treat, and you can set it on the counter and say, you get this when we come back from the vet. So it gives them two things. One, I'm coming home, and two, there's something waiting for me. So sometimes that can make it feel a little bit better. Or if you can do a fun trip, like, okay, we have to go to the vet, but now we're going to go to the dog park, if you do a dog park. So there's two things that can be into it that help take some of the anxiety out of it.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Kat. That was helpful.
You're very welcome. I think Robin is next.
Yes.
Hey, Kat.
Hi.
Nice to see you again. I'm going to second Alice. She's fabulous. So if anybody needs an animal communicator, this is your lady. She's phenomenal. And I was just curious, you were talking in general earlier, and I know you just get the name and the breed, and I'm curious, how do you distinguish an animal that's in life versus one that's in spirit?
That's a great question. It's a feel for me, which does not explain it at all. So when I'm talking to an animal who's in their physical form, there's a couple of things that happen for me. It's like I like say their name, and I get an image of them. So it's kind of like I'm watching a movie and I can see it, but it's like I feel more grounded. It's talking like I would talk to a person in a way. So very much there. The difference for me that I feel is when I'm talking to an animal who's crossed over and is in spirit form now, the energy swirls. So, and again, I know that doesn't necessarily make sense, but the difference, if I was to describe it, is like talking to an animal in their physical form is like a straight stream of energy. And I'm just like, it's right here. I can feel it right here. When I'm talking to the animals in spirit, there's like this swirl feel that kind of comes, and it's just like, there's a lighter sensation behind it. I would say the difference there could be like if you were at sea level, there's a lot of pressure, like we have a lot of barometric pressure kind of at that point. If you go up into a higher, you're up in the mountains, there's like not so much air, you start to feel kind of lightheaded, that kind of a difference. You can breathe great down here, but not so much up here, if that makes this difference. The other thing about this is animals that are sometimes in spirit form don't always present as the animal. Like if I'm talking to an animal who's in physical form, most of the time I don't see them. They're not in the room with me. I'm on the phone with the person. But when they show me a picture of them, I see the whole animal. I can see what they look like, a full body, head, tail, things like that. Animals in spirit form sometimes show me just part of a body. There was a donkey one time where I was asked to talk to these two donkeys. And while I was talking to the two donkeys kept showing me, so I could see like this fence line, and there were two heads looking over the fence, and we were talking to those donkeys. But then when I looked down below the fence line, I could see the two sets of legs for these two donkeys, but there was a third set of legs, but there was no head above it. And so I finally asked, I'm like, okay, are you a spirit donkey? Have you lived here before? And the answer came back a strong yes. And I was like, okay, do you want to try to say hi to your person? And they were like, yes. And so then I asked the person, I'm like, have you had a donkey that's crossed over? And she's like, yes. She goes, but I didn't know you could talk to animals that have crossed. And I'm like, well, the donkey is clearly here, clearly wants to say hi, but I never got to see the upper half of that donkey. It was only the legs. So sometimes talking to animals and spirits, for me, there's, if you picture, like we live here on this plane, and then if you go into like our atmosphere where the stars are, there's this just like layer that goes around the world, is kind of how I see it. And in that layer that goes around the world is where I see spirits, and they come across as glowing light balls or orbs. And sometimes they're just sort of round balls, just a solid energy. Sometimes they look to me, there was a book as a kid that I read, and I don't know what the title was. I don't even know the author anymore, but I remember in the book, they had things called warm fuzzies and cold pricklies. And the warm fuzzies kind of looked like a tribble, I guess. So it's kind of fuzzy, but just like blurry little edges. Those are what energies and spirits look like to me. Sometimes they'll put a face onto that ball of energy so that I can see what they looked like when they were in physical form. And that just kind of connects me so I can describe it to the person. And the person says like, yes, that was my animal. And then they go back into just that energy image again, not showing what they looked like in their physical form. So it varies a little bit by the animal. I had one time though, there was one time that did break, and if I told this story before, my apologies, but I was doing readings one time, and this big white fluffy dog just kept popping in, and every time somebody would come and like leave the table, the dog was right there. It's like, my person's coming, my person's coming. And I was like, what? And they were like, I'm like, okay, I don't know. We haven't talked to anybody yet. And it was almost the end of the day. And I finally told the dog, I'm like, okay, we're leaving in a few minutes and I haven't seen your person. I don't think. The dog was like, no, they're coming. And this woman walked in at the very end. I had like 20 minutes of the day left. And she was, I almost didn't come. She goes, I don't know. And I'm like, wait. Before you say anything else, I said, do you have a great big huge white fluffy dog? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness, please sit down. I said, this dog has been pestering me all day long. It just knew you were coming. So we did the reading from there. But that dog was knowing, like sometimes the animals know their person is going to come talk to me. And so I'll see these animals and they'll just pop up. In that case, it was an animal who was still alive. I had a great picture of it, great image of it. And so sometimes they will jump in and they'll follow me around. Sometimes animals who are going to talk to me, if the person isn't really sure, and sometimes I think people aren't sure if they want to talk to me because they can be afraid of the answer the animal's going to give. Like if it's something that they don't feel like they can do for the animal, or if the animal, like, again, I've never had an animal say, I don't want to live here, I want to go live someplace else. They don't usually come across that way. And the people who come talk to me usually have a better connection to their pet than that. But I think sometimes they're afraid that the animal will say something that will get the person in trouble or it will be embarrassing. And the animals just don't do that. They don't see things the way we do as far as embarrassing. They don't feel like we have problems the way that, we think we have problems or issues. And so it's nice, but they'll show up. I've had times where I had a backache one day and it was just like my back hurt so much and I could not make it stop. I was like, I don't know what's up with this. I tried like heat. I did the Tylenol thing. I do everything that you would normally do if you have an ache or a pain. And then I did a reading and the woman told me, oh, we want to talk to the dog. It's not moving well. And I was like, oh, and as soon as I started talking to the dog and the dog is like, yeah, my back hurts bad. I was like, oh, this is your pain. And the dog took it all back and my back quit hurting. So sometimes I'll get these things. And I've learned now over the years, if I start getting aches or pains or something comes up, if I start feeling anxious and I'm like, okay, I have no reason to be anxious. There's nothing going on in my life. I don't feel like I hurt anything, then I usually stop and ask, okay, am I doing a reading? Is somebody sending me a message? If I get my yes answer, then I'm like, okay, I need you to hold this until we actually do the reading, or, I can't function in my day. So now I've learned how to be like, okay, I know you're going to talk. I've got you're in my appointment book. We'll talk, but you take it back for now. So sometimes knowing it's coming is what will get me.
Kat, I can give you a little bit of advice on that,
Yes.
because and I think Grace is next for a question,
Okay.
but so many people have come to me and said, I can't, I'm a prisoner in my own home. I'm an empath. And I said, well, I'm an empath, but I can go anywhere with any group of people. And when I recognized what was happening to me, that I was picking up other people's pain, I told my guides specifically, let me feel what they feel for 5 to 10 seconds. And that's it.
Nice.
Just enough to know that what it was that they are dealing with. So have your guides do something like that for you.
Okay. I can certainly ask them to do that.
Because there's no, it's just stupid to carry pain all day just because you're going to have a reading at the end of the day, with that. And it hurts you. It
It
just
does.
hurts.
It does. And when you don't know what it is, then you're not really focused on what you need to be doing. And so,
Right.
no, that's great. I can definitely ask, because I know guides love to help us.
That's right.
And the more we ask them to do, the more they're willing to do.
Okay, super. And I think Grace will let you go, and then Rose, and then I know somebody else has their hand up, but I don't know who, because I don't see anybody else's hand in here.
Okay, Kat, thank you for taking my question. I have a couple of questions, but I'll make them very brief. I have 2 dogs. Both of them are rescues.
Mm.
My one dog, Delphi, I've had the longest, and she is a really well-behaved dog, but she can be intimidating. She doesn't put up with any crap. My other dog, Philly, is overly friendly, but she has no boundaries. She doesn't understand her limits. Well, the 2 girls got into an altercation the other day, and believe me, it could have been a bloodbath, but I took a water bottle, squirted it just to get them to give that look of shock. At that point, I grabbed Philly, kept the dogs separated until they settled, because dogs can go from 0 to 60.
Absolutely.
And there's no breaks. With Philly, my main concern is her. And the only reason why is, like I said, she knows no boundaries. So I don't know if you can pick up anything on her. And I know with Delphi right now, I've noticed a couple of lumps on her. Yet the vet looked at them and said, no, it's nothing to be concerned about. But I don't know what I don't know.
Okay. Both good questions, both good things there. For Philly, I would tell you that assigning a job would be a good option. So you said there's no boundaries, but it's like, how would you like to see her fit in? Like how do you want her to be a part of the household? Like everybody kind of has a role or something to play. So if you bring her in, and roles can be anything from being just a companion to being a greeter to you want her to be gentle. She could become a historian. She could become keeper of the plants staying in the pots. What I mean? So it's like, looking at a role and asking her if she would be willing to take on that particular job, if you will. In setting boundaries, it might be that you ask her to maybe be the role of peacekeeper, so that it's like when both of the dogs are in the room, that neither one of them are really tussling. That doesn't mean that they can't play, because they could certainly play, and they might, do some tumbling or like touching each other while they're playing, but there's no necessarily like teeth on or no growling type of a thing. So, that could become the job. A peacekeeper could also mean that, if somebody's coming to the door, like you're getting a delivery or someone's showing up at your house and they ring the doorbell, if there's a lot of barking, you can ask her to know that, okay, like one bark lets you know, yep, the doorbell did ring. And then kind of being quiet, watching, being peaceful as somebody comes in might be the type of role. If neither of those really feel like what it is, and it's like you don't have to set it right now, it might be something that you play with a little bit, and you have like 3 things. You're like, okay, she could be doing 3 different things. You might try one thing, see how it works. If it doesn't seem like it's working, switch to something else. But the key with that is that any job, you want to reward her for it. So if she becomes the peacekeeper in this example, and it's like she kind of has a boundary, brings some limitations into this, then you could be like, oh, good girl, thank you. I appreciate that you weren't, just racing around the house today. I appreciate that you walked calmly through the house. Here's a treat for that. Or if she has a toy that you likes to play with you, and you give her 5 extra minutes of like, this is one-on-one time with her, that can also be the reward. So you have to kind of thank her for what it is you want her to do, give her that reward, food or attention, whatever works best for her and you, and then kind of see how that goes. Jobs can change. If it works well and 3 months from now you're like, oh, okay, I don't think we have this anymore, you can be like, you did a great job, you don't have to do this one anymore, we're going to let you retire from this job, maybe you pick up a different one. For your other dog, the lumps, I'm not getting anything urgent out of that either. It kind of has a feel of like it's I don't even feel like they're fatty tumors. That has a different feel. There's a firmer feel to them. These just feel like she's picking up maybe a little bit of fluid, or it has something to do with the way the connective tissues go between the muscles and the skin, kind of causing it. But I'm not picking up from her a concern. They don't feel painful. Honestly, I don't think you have to worry about them at this point.
Thank you.
Sure.
What causes them to get into that, I call it the bloodbath, where they get that battle. And really, I mean, at the end of the day, Philly's missing 8 teeth.
Oh my.
Delphi's got a full set. Delphi bit Philly right on the nose, and I mean, it was a beaut. It was a beaut. I mean, the good news is, thank God. I mean, because I often wondered, how am I going to address this issue now that my husband's passed? Because the last time this happened, he was alive and he could help me through it.
Right.
Lucky for me, I put 3 and 3 together, just grabbed the thing of water and just started spraying, and then grabbed the hold of Philly.
Right.
And I had Philly on a leash and walking her around the house until the energy came down. But what causes that?
That is something that the best way I can describe it is like this saying, it's all fun and games until somebody puts an eye out. You start out, nobody intends for it to be that kind of high energy. You're doing great. It could be like a person going jogging, for example, can be like, oh, I feel okay today. I feel pretty good. I want to do something healthy. I'm going to go jogging. You get on the tennis shoes, you get on your shorts or whatever, you go out, you start jogging. You're like, okay, this is a great easy pace. I can do this. And then all of a sudden you're on a road that's down a hill, and now you're like jogging, and you're jogging down the hill, but you're picking up speed. And all of a sudden you're going so fast, you can't control it, and you trip and you tumble down the rest of the hill. When you left the house, you didn't plan to fall down the hill. You didn't plan to fall down or anything. So it's like, we don't always know when it's going to happen. And I think for the dogs, what happens there is they start playing, and they just kind of build on each other. And then that energy starts to go, and they don't realize that they're taking it to the like, wait, no, I want to be in charge, or it's my turn to be on top, kind of a thing. And it's like that shift is in a second of time. That could be something where maybe you kind of watch them play and they could be doing good, and you're like, okay, girls, split them up or have them do something else, distract it. So it kind of takes that away before it can build into that moment. Be about the only thing I could suggest trying on that.
Well, I now have a water bottle in every room. So thank you, because it is effective for breaking the concentration.
You know, and that's it, getting their attention, and certainly not, it doesn't matter. Animals of any size, when they start to get into it, it's like kind of anger, or that energy just takes over. Conscious thought is gone on people or animals. So using a water bottle to break it up is awesome. You're probably going to get to a point where all you have to do is like shake it. And if they can hear the noise of the water in it, they'll be like, oops, okay, we don't even have to get wet yet, you know, and they'll stop and break it up. But it definitely is better than like trying to wade in or grab and using hands, because, you know, if they could get you thinking it's them, and, you know, you don't need to be bitten either.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay.
Okay.
And Alice, I'm going to come back to you because I saw a question pop up, but I didn't get to read it.
I don't know. I'll try to find it.
Okay.
Rose, I think, has her hand up. So she, I'll go into the chat room.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And Rose, if you want to ask your question.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Before I go on to my questions, a little bit lengthy, I just want to let Robin know that every fur baby that I do, I'm a medium. So every fur baby that is on the other side comes through with their loved one, always. My question is, I have a 6.5 fur baby. He was born with very serious neurological condition from the beginning. He's been through many anesthesias. He's been through water treadmills. He gets cold laser therapy, gets everything. He understands Reiki. He understands crystal healing and the most power of prayer. He understands complete power of prayer. This dog is beautiful. My question is that I'm not able to get an answer on, I believe he's going to need his teeth done.
Okay.
And I'm not able to get an answer on, and I think this for me, because he's been through so much and his mobility is not 100% because of his neurological condition. It's the step of moving forward to get him under, again, anesthesia, because it weakens his system, to get his teeth clean. But yet I don't want to create another problem. I have nurtured this baby through everything from the beginning, and we are still moving by the power of God. So I just need that feeling of comfort. That's what I need.
Right. And I'm sorry, say his name one more time for me, please.
His name is Muse.
Muse. Okay. Okay. There was one of the things I was asking him was like, you know, how his teeth feel on this one. He probably could benefit from a teeth cleaning. You know, it's something because of everything else. And like, I'm not a vet, so your vet would probably be more inclined to say like yearly, but as a pet mom myself with some special needs children, I also feel like you have to weigh out what the risks are of anesthesia and everything else, and how traumatic it is for the animal and recovery time. In this case, there's kind of a sensation where he probably has like some gingivitis, some issues going on. I don't know. It doesn't really feel like there's like a decay issue necessarily. So I think it's not like to the bad point where he could lose teeth during a cleaning, but he probably could benefit from it. Ultimately, cleaner teeth help, you know, with the rest of the body as well. Things that you might try for that are doing supplements where you can help boost his immune system before going under anesthesia. Also trying to add like extra water into his diet. Like if you do make the appointment to do that, really trying to get him hydrated before he goes into it, and then trying to get him to drink a lot and be hydrated coming out of it to help flush everything out of the system. Letting him know that the teeth cleaning can help, because what I get is like a sensation of tingling in the teeth. And so I'm letting him know that cleaning the teeth could take that sensation away and make it feel more comfortable. It can prevent a problem where he could end up having to lose a tooth, because he says he doesn't want that to happen. What are you guys doing? But he's a little fearful. He says he knows what it feels like when he comes out of anesthesia, and he doesn't like that doped up feeling. and
He's been under 5 of them, 5, and he's been under 3 or 4 MRIs.
Oh my goodness.
He's under the neurological department of doctors. They
God.
can't even do surgery on him.
Oh my goodness.
That's how serious it is.
Okay. But I do get from him that he has a strong sense of love and a lot of gratitude. I mean, there's just a lot of gratitude because what you're able to do for him and help him through this is not something that everybody could or would do. And, it's one of those things where I think each animal and each of us have that own decision. We have to decide, can we do this? Can we help support? And if we can, great, definitely go for it. I'm all for that. And in this case, he feels like he came into your life because he knew you'd have that ability to be able to help support him through it.
Yes.
It also feels like he's got a greater purpose in that he is going to be able to help others kind of learn. So what he's able to give, like what you can share about how this is happening, what's working for him, what the vets are doing with him, is actually expanding knowledge in other ways. So it's like, it may not be that he is like the miracle dog or miracle.
Oh, he's a miracle dog.
I guess I meant more miracle cure because, the fact that he is like the way he is, there's a very good sweetness about him. And it's just like, I just feel like he's like oozy with love, if that makes sense. Like he's just like soft and squishy, almost like you just want to just hug him all the time. But so it's knowing that, letting him know that just cleaner teeth could help him in the long run for other things, and knowing that you're going to be there to support and make sure he has like the water and you'll be there with his recovery gives him a greater sense of comfort. I don't hear him saying like, no, he's absolutely refusing a treatment like that at this time. So it's like, it could go forward. It's just, there's always that sense of nervous, like, oh man, somebody's doing something to me and I have no control. So
Yes. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Kat.
You're
Thank
very welcome.
you.
Okay, Kat, the third person is Bill Reddy. He's in the background. And there's also a request for your name and your contact information. Do you have can you put that in the chat? Do you want to type it in?
I can. My keyboard's on the other. I have to go out of camera to get to my keyboard if that's, so I can do that.
Okay, shall we do that at the end then?
If that's okay, that would be great.
Okay, because because Bill has a question for.
Okay, yes, I absolutely can make that information available.
Okay, great.
Okay, Bill.
So I have a 15-year-old male cat whose sister died about a month ago due to cancer.
Okay.
And he cries in the middle of the night. And, short of giving him grief therapy, I was wondering what I can do to be supportive. He's an old man, so I don't know if getting another female cat is really the proper thing to do, or just, let him hang on his own. So that's my question.
Okay. No, great question. And, a situation like this is often one of those things where people aren't quite sure what to do. You've had two, clearly one's crossed over. The other one does seem to feel like they're missing out. What I'm getting here is, and sorry, his name again?
It's Nelson.
Nelson. Oh, cute. For Nelson, what I'm hearing is that in the middle of the night, his sister's spirit is coming in. So she's coming down. She's doing a couple of things. She's wanting to check in on you and the household and just make sure that everything is okay, even though she's not there physically. So her spirit's still very much there. Because they were connected in physical form, she's also kind of making sure that he's okay. He's crying in the night because he can see her. He knows that she's there. He's trying to let you know that she's there, and kind of it's like she's here, giving that attention. What you might try doing is if you wake up enough, you're trying not to wake yourself up because you want to stay asleep, is just greet her and be like, oh, hey, I'm glad you're here. Have fun. I'll see you guys in the morning, type of a thing or something. Try to go back to sleep, but it would acknowledge her presence. Let Nelson know that, okay, he's alerted you, that she's there too now. I don't think he's wanting another companion at this point, so it's like, even though he had her, he's alone right now, as far as animals in the house. I would tell you he's okay with that. He's just kind of adjusting, and our animals go through a grief process like we do too. Um, Similar steps. They can be sad, they can be angry, you know, they go through the loss, and then they kind of come out and they're like, okay, and we can acknowledge, okay, I'm missing the person, but it's not so sad anymore. It's like I can think of the more happy things. So he's going through those processes right now. The other thing is that she she's trying to tell him what the experience was like for her, and she'll definitely be there to greet him when it's his time. So he's kind of telling her like, okay, I don't want to hear it right now. I don't want to cross. He's not ready to do any crossing. He wants to stay in physical form. She's trying to kind of reassure him it's going to be okay. She's definitely in a place where there's no pain anymore. She feels more whole again, like more like herself, but her energy's coming through and she wants to be there. So I would tell you, just kind of acknowledge, Nelson, I hear that you're talking to her. It's okay. You know, you can talk with her. Thank you very much for that. And then letting him know it's okay to miss her, that you probably miss her, you know, very much as well, and that feeling of loss doesn't go away. It's, you know, it'll ease, and you can think of the happier things that you guys did together, but it's you'll always think of her. So kind of just knowing that, letting him know it's a shared experience, that can help sometimes too. If you still have a blanket or bedding or something like that that she used, or a spot that she predominantly went to, make sure that he knows that it's okay if he uses that. Or if like sometimes with two or more animals, we have like a blanket here for one and a blanket here for another. If you take her blanket and put it near where his is or where he likes to be, it's telling him it's okay, but then he can also feel the connection and feel closer to her because he has something to physically touch as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I put a treat on the little tree scratching post that she had, and he wouldn't go near it. So just thought give him a little time there.
Okay, I would give him a little bit of time, and I'm asking her, it's like, is it okay if he uses the tree? And she's saying now that she doesn't need it, he could use it. But I kind of think that she actually didn't want him to. And it feels like maybe he tried a couple times and she was like, no, like you can't use it, it's mine. So I kind of think that there was a little bit of don't touch my stuff when she was still alive.
That's very accurate, I'm sure.
It's kind of funny how sometimes things will change. You know, it's like one of you is now a spirit, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I guess it was okay if we shared, you know, and you know, here we go.
Oh, that's great. Well, I appreciate the insight.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. All right. Then Rose, Kat, why don't you go and type in the contact information?
Okay.
And I'll regale everybody with the story of when I had to put down Delilah. I had Samson and Delilah, two corgis.
Right.
Donna put the info in. You don't have to.
Okay. When we had to put down Delilah first, and because she had a fatty tumor and she was so sick, and I know that we probably held on to her, I'm going to say, at least a week, probably realistically a month longer than we should have. But you know, it just broke our hearts to have to put her down. And so then we debated: do we take Sammy with us? You know, because they were brother and sister. They had always been together, and everything. And then this incredible calmness came over me. And the feeling was, yes, of course you take him. And so I had him, my husband held Delilah when the vet came in, and I held Sammy looking at Delilah as she received the injection. And I swear that Sammy saw her spirit leave her body, because he never once looked for her. When we brought him home, we were at the cottage in Pennsylvania. When we brought him home, he just was like normal. It wasn't like, where's Delilah? because before, if she was missing or she was someplace else, it was like, where is she? He always looked for her. So I absolutely do believe that taking him to witness her demise was the best thing for him, because then now if they come in together, because he passed about 14 months later, and we had to put him down. But it it was just an amazingly just very cherished event to have the one dog witness the others passing. It just, I mean, that's what it felt like to me. Everything. So
Can I pop in on that one?
of
That is
course.
amazing. And yes, our animals, they often don't know what happens if one just disappears. You take it to the vet, it never comes back, and they're kind of like, wait, what happened? So if they have that time to be able to say goodbye, I know at home euthanasias now are becoming more popular, and it can be a little bit easier because your animals aren't feeling good at the end of life usually. So having someone come in, but the other animals can be there, family members can be there, and that helps. And sometimes when you have more than one animal, if they know one is getting ready to cross, you can often see how one will react to the others. Or you might have the one animal who maybe is laying down sleeping more, and you'll notice that the other animals in the household will come up and they will greet them, say hello, and then kind of walk away, where they give a lot of deferential treatment to them. So you can see sometimes how that works and how that interacts.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And Kat, I don't know if anybody else has a question, because there's 8 things. Kim asked about fees. I charge $80 an hour, half hour is 40. Appointments are set by phone and usually done. And do you have your phone in here?
Yes, Donna put my phone number in there, 520-245-5120.
Okay, fantastic.
It's just usually easy. It's faster to get me by phone. If people email me, I do get back, but I have to admit, I am not on email all that often. So it might be about a week. And so if it's an urgent thing, don't email in.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. And
I'm sorry, what's the number again, please? What's your number?
520-245-5120.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. And this lovely messages to everybody, the few that had to go off and everything. So, but for whatever reason, there's only one question that keeps recirculating in my head. So I want to ask this of you, because it so horrified me. And you said you work with horses. What about horses that are abused? Like I heard of one horse that had staples put into it. And what do you do when you know that you're being or seeing an animal who has witnessed abuse or is experiencing abuse? What happens then?
In a situation, most of the time, people who come and talk to me don't have an abusive situation happening at that time.
Right.
So most of the time when I'm talking to an animal, it's one who's come from an abuse situation and the person has rescued or brought them out of it. And so we can work with them there. It seems really odd. I mean, as much as I love animals and stuff, I can't imagine hurting one. So to find someone who does is just, I don't ever want to understand that person, but I don't have a lot of like sympathy for people who can do that. I would make sure that the animal was in a safe place. I would ask it, are you with a person now that you trust? Do you feel like you have support that you need now? Are you getting food and attention? And if they're telling me yes to that, sorry, it was the cat sneezing. If if the animal's feeling like they're okay, they're getting what they need, then there's not much I can do at that point, because the person is already trying to take care of them and take them out of that. In a situation where I think in a way I've been fortunate, I haven't come across it where I've come across an animal who's been abused and in that abusive situation. But honestly, I would alert authorities. I would ask or request that, someone come in and try to take it out. Working with shelters and rescue groups, there's so many different places now that you can turn animals over to, like, nobody has to abuse an animal. They can give them up. There's places that will take them in, help for them, counties, all kinds of different places. So it would be like definitely getting to an authority, getting them into a situation where they could be maybe in a different home or different setting where somebody can provide care. And then just sort of working with the people that are trying to help them get through that. And for abused animals, a lot of times I'll ask them, okay, you're out of that abusive situation now. You're in a safe place. You want to be here. But we can also ask, are the traumas of the past too much? Do you need or want to be released from the physical form to let go of that and sort of start over? So if they go into spirit form, they can process, let go of anything that happened to them in this particular life. And then they can come back and redo a life where they get a life of maybe more ease, peace, finding the generosity, finding the people that will treat them well from the beginning so that they don't have to experience an abusive situation. Something that does come up sometimes, though, is animals who have been abused sometimes have told me that they're willing to be in that really awful situation because it brought awareness to the situation, and that they're able to bring more healing, more people to understand that it can't be a bad situation like that. Like, we have to do other things to try to help it, fix it, change laws, change rules. So it kind of goes that way.
Okay, thank you.
I would say, I will tell you, there was once early on when I first started doing the readings, there was one person who asked me to do a reading for their dog. And as I was reading for the dog, I knew it was a rescued dog, but I didn't know the background. And the person didn't want to tell me, knew the background before we started all of this. But as we started doing the reading, or I was talking to the dog, I kept getting these images and I was like, this just can't be right. And I finally had to stop, and I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure. I said, I'm picking up some stuff from the dog, and I don't know where it came from. I feel like it's really horrific. And she goes, no, this dog was very much abused. What are you getting? In this particular case, it was a dog who had been physically and sexually abused by a person. And I had never come across that before. And again, it was one of those sittings, and I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from. And the person told me, no, you're absolutely picking up what happened. And I'm like, okay. I says, well, the good news is the dog is out of that situation, is definitely in a safer place. You're definitely helping it through. But there were just things like that poor animal never, ever should have had to deal with, that was going through now, that was with a good place. So in that case, it brought more awareness. The person who had done the abuse is no longer allowed to have animals, and is actually monitored to make sure is not in contact with animals.
Wow. Okay. All right. Do you, Kat, I know it's almost 9 o'clock and I usually try to end at 9, but we have to say our prayer. Did you want to take one more question, one very quick one?
If there's one quick question, sure.
Okay, I think it was Ash Walker had a question.
Yeah. Hi.
Ash, you're muted.
Sorry about that. You did answer my question quite a bit with animals that do stay in that situation, because in the past, one of my dogs, my childhood dogs, our household was abusive, and I always think about him so much, because I'm just like, wow, like, he passed, and I want to send so much love, you know what I mean? Like that. I don't know why that had to happen to him, but
You know, in a case like that where he grows up in a household, you know, especially if you were a child at the time, we don't always know. Sometimes, you know, it's like parents, for whatever reason, you know, either don't know how to take care of, or, you know, are in a bad situation themselves and it comes out that way. So it's like, in this case, I feel like the dog was staying because it was trying to help deflect a little bit. And so was trying to help support and give you a chance at seeing what unconditional love could be like, so that you had a chance to see that even in a situation where it maybe wasn't happening. So they do that. But what you're saying there, you know, sending the love is perfect, because what you can do is think about the dog, think about the dog's name, and just kind of picture the dog in your mind. That'll bring the connection to you, and the dog will know that you're thinking about him very much. Just offering up the chance to say how much you appreciate it, even though it wasn't the best of times, maybe, that, you know, the dog was there and you were able to be there together in that time, is great. Thanking it, honoring it for its presence and staying with you, is a way to just sort of thank it for its part in helping you through that. And hopefully, you know, that's not something, you know, like you're able to move through all of that as well, or have moved through it.
Yeah, like I still feel like guilt for my part in it too, you know.
And you can just say,
Um,
I'm sorry for what I did. I didn't mean to harm. I didn't know better. You know,
yeah.
and I wish you well, love, and happiness going forward, or in any future lives you pick. And so that way you've honored what the dog went through during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, Kat, again. And also we will make sure that your contact information is on the website, you know, next to because we'll have the thing recorded. But what I'm going to do now, in the honor, to honor our time, instead of each individual person giving their things, I'll do a moment of silence when I come to the section of the prayer, and then you put in your intentions, whether they're human or animal. And so very gently close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and exhale. Dear Mother, Father, God, divine, infinite spirit, source of all that is, we thank the creator, the source, prime mover, for this very, very special treat to have Kat with us, Kat Riegel, to help us to learn how to and understand that we, each of us, can communicate with both our domestic as well as our wild animals. All we really have to do is to set our intention to begin with. And we thank the angels and the archangels, the ascended masters, and we ask for special healing for the following. And we especially thank Master Jesus, Master Buddha, Master Katumi, Saint Francis, Saint Germain, Saint Gabriel, Saint Raphael, Saint Michael, the Blessed Mother, the Divine Feminine, Mary Magdalene, Moses, Metatron, Melchizedek, Mohammed, and Kuan Yin. We ask to be cleared, centered, aligned, balanced, and grounded. And whatever we ask to be the highest recipients of the highest vibration of light from Metatron and his healing angels, We also ask for the healing from the great rays, the lords and masters of the rays, and the archangels of the rays. And we also ask healing from the Elohim, the creator gods. We ask all of this in the name of Jesus the Christ and in the name of I am. Amen. Namaste. Namaste. And for next week, I was supposed to be on to give readings for every participant, and I have to be in New York. I've been asked to babysit my grandson, so I'll postpone that till February. But one of the other ministers, either Michelle Porter will, or Teresa Jones will give a, we'll do a healing for the for all our participants. And once again, Kat, I can't tell you how much this means to me and how important you are. And trust me, if there's any problems I have with this little kitty, which she seems to be so happy here, all I can ask you all, send good vibes to my husband so that he can maybe melt and agree to let this little one stay in our house, because I have just so enjoyed it, so.
He's probably you're going to be surprised. Like if he doesn't go with you when you're in New York and the cat stays with him, you'll probably come back and find their best buddies.
Okay. No, he stays here. Bob stays here and the cat stays here. So anyway.
Well, that'll give him great bonding opportunity.
Well, I hope so. I hope so, because I really would like, just like you said, the calmness, the in the momentness, just fantastic,
Awesome. Well, I will definitely send good energy for that. And I have to say, your blessing, your prayer tonight, I can feel the energy vortex from DC all the way to here. We have a huge vortex circle going right now.
Yay. Thank you. All right. And I thank everybody who joined us, because every time we seem to get different people, but to me, animal lovers are just like gardeners. They're probably the best people in the world. So,
I agree.
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.